Lines. A narrow mark that connects together a start point and an end point. Lines are easy for us to draw given a ruler, a pen and a paper. But wait, what if you were a computer? What if instead of a pen, paper and ruler, all you had was a grid of pixels? Given a starting pixel and an ending pixel, what pixels would you choose to make your selection look like a line? Or how would you build your line using just pixels? Well, this is where math comes in, or speaking more specifically, this is where the DDA Line Drawing Algorithm comes in. This is the algorithm and let me explain to you its magic. Let's take this coordinate system for our example. Here we need to draw a line from point A to point B. Pixel A is at x1, y1 and pixel B is at x2, y2. Here we need to start selecting pixels from point A and move towards point B. So what this algorithm does is as simple as this. It takes x1 and y1, adds some number to x1 and y1, let's say a1 and b1, and by doing that what we get is a new coordinate. And let's call this coordinate x 0.1, y 0.1. We mark this coordinate on the pixel grid and this pixel takes us one step closer to x2, y2. Now x 0.1 and y 0.1 is added with that same number a1 and b1 to get x 0.2 and y 0.2. We again mark x 0.2 and y 0.2 on the pixel grid and this takes us another step closer to x2, y2. This same process of addition of these special numbers a1, b1 is carried out in a loop until we reach x2, y2, thus creating a line by just selecting pixels. Let's revisit the algorithm. Now what I just explained to you was this second part, which was adding these two special numbers a1 and b1 in a loop to reach x2 and y2. Now we can move on to the first part, which is finding out what these special numbers are and how are these calculated. Well, the steps to find out those special numbers is fairly simple. This is the first step, and the first step includes finding out dx and dy, which is just the difference between x2, x1 and y2, y1. Now that we have dx and dy, the second step is to find out step. Yes, you heard it right. The second step is to find out step. Step is another variable in our algorithm and it determines the number of steps it will take to create our line. Now if the variable dx is greater than dy, then dx becomes the step variable, and if dy is greater than dx, then dy becomes the step variable. After determining the step variable, finding out a1 and b1 becomes fairly easy. a1 is nothing but dx divided by steps and b1 is nothing but dy divided by steps. This is how we get a1 and b1 are two magical numbers. This a1 and b1 will be added to x1 and y1 to get our next pixel, and then the same a1 and b1 will be added to every new pixel until we reach x2 and y2. Let's solve this example. Our x1 and y1 is 2, 2 and our x2 and y2 is 4, 4. So our dx and dy would be 2 and 2. Our steps would also be 2, so a1 would be dx divided by steps, which is 1, and b1 would be dy divided by steps, which is also 1. Now let's use x and y as our cursor for putting pixels. The initial value of x and y will be that of x1 and y1. Let's put pixel at x and y. This is our first iteration. Now let's add a1 and b1 to x and y. We get 3, 3. Let's mark that to our pixel grid. This is our second iteration. Now let's add a1 and b1 to x, y again. We get 4, 4. Let's mark that also to our grid. This is our final iteration and this is how our line is made. Now I want you to look at another interesting thing over here. While choosing a1 and b1, we took care of three conditions. The conditions were that the slope was less than 1, equal to 1 and greater than 1. The slope of a line is nothing but y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1, that is dy by dx. If the line is equal to 45 degrees, then the slope is 1. If it is less than 45 degrees, then the slope is less than 1. And if the line is greater than 45 degrees, then the slope is greater than 1. So for different slope conditions, there is different a1 and b1. Now let me explain to you how different conditions are handled. The first condition is when the slope is less than 1, a1 is 1 and b1 is the slope itself. This simply means that x is incremented by 1 and y is incremented by the value of slope. The second condition is when the slope is equal to 1. Here a1 is 1 and b1 is also 1. This simply means that x is incremented by 1 and y is incremented by 1. The third condition is when the slope is greater than 1. Here a1 is inverse of slope and b1 is 1. This simply means that x is incremented by 1 by slope and y is incremented by 1. And this is how our DDA line drawing algorithm works. Now this is a fairly new YouTube channel, and if you would like to support me to create content like this, sharing this video and subscribing to the channel would be highly appreciated. Thank you for watching and see you next time with another interesting idea or topic.